Hi guys, this presentation is going to give you an overview of the course for English Literature and English Language A-Level, and it will give you advice and information about how to be a successful A-Level student and to commence the Year 12 course with confidence. So firstly, it's important you understand what skills you need to develop in order to move from GCSE to A-level. So you need to make sure that you have a love of learning and you are willing to ask questions and then be motivated to find out the answers. They might not be in the first place you go to, so you need to be prepared to read around and conduct extensive research. Secondly, you need to make sure that you are an independent learner. Unlike a GCSE, you will be expected to take responsibility for your own learning and to read outside of lessons. So don't expect to complete all of the work within lesson. You need to make sure that you are conducting independent research outside of lesson. You also need to make sure that you persevere and you have with your A-level learning, even when it seems too difficult or challenging. You also need to be resilient and thrive on constructive criticism. A 9 is at GCSE is very different to what an A star is at A-level. So you need to just be prepared to build on your skills from GCSE in order to achieve those higher grades at A-level. So you need to welcome challenges, be inspired by others, be motivated, and act on the advice given to you by your class teacher. The text you read and the concepts and theories you come across at A-level will be challenging. And whilst you might find this daunting at first, you need to persevere and just keep going with your learning. And this means that you need to be quite motivated. Learning requires effort and a commitment to your studies. The more you invest in your learning, the more you will gain in terms of academic achievement. So be proactive in your learning journey. Complete follow-on tasks to improve your skills. Read widely to gain more knowledge and look up definitions and concepts online. You need to make sure that you are reading widely on an English course. Do not just read the set text. You need to make sure that you are reading other texts that we recommend as teachers. The expectation is that you'll be a keen reader. You'll be expected to research text independently, investigate context, and develop an informed reading of texts. Okay, so texts do not exist in isolation, and as such, you should seek to gain a strong understanding of the context in which they're produced and received. You need to make sure that you are becoming a critical and active reader. Question writers and texts. Be critical of their representations of the world and form an educated viewpoint. And last two, you need to make sure that you maintain detailed, well organised and well presented notes, especially when it comes to annotating books. You need to take responsibility to ensure your notes will enable you to be successful at the end of the course. And finally, you will be expected to have an opinion and an educated viewpoint on text you read and issues with which you will engage. You will need to be prepared to communicate your views to others and participate in discussions and debates. You also need to make sure you are respecting the views of others. So firstly, I'd like to go through the course overview for English literature. Okay, so this will be the AQA specification, section A. And there are 3 parts to this A-level. So Love Through the Ages, Modern Times, and then you have the coursework elements. As you can see, I've gone through each of the papers and what you will need to read and what the weighing for each paper is. So paper 1, okay, you will have study 3 texts, 1 poetry, 1 prose and 1 Shakespeare play. and those set texts will be Othello, Poetry pre-900 and The Great Gatsby. For paper 2, you will be reading The Handmaid's Tale. Poetry and the drama is yet to be confirmed. And finally, you will have a coursework component where you will need to be independent and compare 2 texts, at least one which must have been written pre-1900. Okay, and you'll see that it's broken down into paper 1 and paper 2 are worth 40%, and then your coursework is worth the final 20%. Okay, so now that you understand the course overview, in order to prepare for your first year, you should begin to read the core text. So over the summer, you should be making the effort to read Othello, The Great Gatsby, and The Handmaid's Tale. We would also recommend that you read at least 2 further texts from the wider reading list for Love Through the Ages and Modern Times literature from 1945 to present day. And you can find this recommended reading list in the course textbook. So it is important that you download the course textbook for an overview, and also it will give you the list for wider reading. You should complete notes in the wider reading journal, which will be given to you at a later date. So when you are reading the core text, it is important you note down what is happening in each text, key characters, and so on. Over the course of the 2 years, you will learn a range of terminology. So I will give you an introduction list of A-level literature terminology, and over the summer you should start to build your knowledge and understanding of these by creating a glossary in your own words. Okay. So over the summer, just to recap, you should be starting to read some of the core texts, trying to read some of the recommended reading lists, so in terms of wider reading, and making sure that you know the terminology. As well as reading other texts in order for you to develop your knowledge, you should now start to read some books in terms of literary criticism, and there's a list on here. You don't need to read every key section, but it may help you to buy one of these so you have an introduction to literary criticism and the different theories that we will study throughout the module. Okay, so I hope that has helped you understand the course in a little bit more detail, but if you do have any questions, then just feel free to message me, Miss Regan, or Miss Steele if you have any further questions.